Welcome to the Danish Tales, a series about the fictional history of Danes, a history we are going to write together in a game called Crusader Kings 3. In this campaign, we are going to play as the legendary Bagsecg Eriksson, the Jarl of Jutland. According to historical sources, Bagsecg was one of the leaders of the Great Heathen Army, working side by side Halfdan Hvitserk, the son of legendary Ragnarssons. Bagsecg led multiple battles against the likes of Burgred of Mercia and even King Alfred of Wessex. In this campaign, the story so far is something like this. After the brutal execution of Ragnarssons by King Eilert, the Norse world lost one of the greatest heroes. To please the gods, the Norsemen set out a full-force invasion on the English land, especially the kingdom of Northumbria, which was under the rule of King Eilert. The Norsemen arrived in massive numbers, believed to be from all the clans and tribes in Scandinavia. They were termed the Great Northman Army or the Great Heathen Army. The army was led by the sons of Ragnarssons, especially Halfdan, Ivar and Bjorn Ironside. After a successful invasion, most of the Northmen established a stronghold in England itself, with Halfdan and his men taking over the city of York, then known as Jorvik, and Ivar moving further north next to the kingdom of Alba to maintain flanking positions and trade routes to his controlled city of Dublin in Ireland. The other sons of Ragnar, namely Sigurd Snake in the Eye and Bjorn Ironside, left England, but Uber stayed behind to help his brother Halfdan. Sigurd Snake in the Eye went back to Scandinavia near the Danish-controlled lands of Zealand and Skane, while Bjorn went back to his quest of sailing the Mediterranean Sea with his friend Jarl Bagsecg. Other leaders of the great army, like our character Bagsecg, went back to his land in Danish territory, namely the Jarldom of Jutland. Our campaign starts right about when Halfdan has declared war upon King Eilert of Northumbria, Ivar has declared war on Northumbria and Kingdom of East Anglia, and Bjorn Ironside has just returned from his exploits in the Mediterranean. When I first started, my plan was to negotiate an alliance with Halfdan and join the Northumbrian invasion war, but I set that goal aside as upon my return to my realm, I found it in a very desperate state. We didn't have any vassals, I was over the county holding limit, I didn't have any courtiers and very poor council members. I had to settle some scores. Upon return, I found out that Jutland was in this state because of the constant raids from the neighbouring earldom of Lubeck. So firstly, I formed alliances with the Scandinavian Ragnarssons, namely Sigurd and Bjorn Ironside, and then I set out to fight Lubeck. I planned to invade the chiefdom of Lubeck itself, but some unforeseen events took place. On the dawn of 27th January, it was a Wednesday, I received a memorandum from Chieftain Mistivoy of Lubeck. He said that I had no claims on his land, and I was to stay where I belong. I was furious, and so I decided to go and sack Lubeck. I wasn't even worried that I was going to get the land. I was ready to fix the damage that I myself was going to do. I marched with my Aarhus regiment to the camp at Schleswig. I raised 20,000 men and started my march to Lubeck. Upon getting the word that I was marching, Mistivoy retreated his army in the forest of Stralsund. And that is where I made a mistake. I decided to temporarily abandon the siege on Lubeck and march to Stralsund and teach Mistivoy a lesson. I reached the battlefield by 3rd of April and was met with Mistivoy and his 700 men, and a huge battle took place. Somehow my greatest champion Yatvardar was slain in the battle. That made most of my men to lose focus and descend into chaos, and then we started losing and I had to retreat. I couldn't believe that I had to retreat even after having numbers on my side. And so after returning back to Schleswig, I sent an envoy to Jarl Sigurd Snake in the Eye to come help me win this war. And so knowing that I was going to get help from legendary Ragnarsson, I marched again, but this time with a solid plan. And my plan was to sack the city of Lubeck and then march to Obertricia. I made my way to sack Lubeck but had to fall back to Schleswig as I received news that I was being raided. Upon dealing with the stray raiders, I made my way back to Lubeck, and along with 1,700 of Sigurd's men, we sacked the city of Lubeck and fortified my claim and control in Lubeck. As I won my war, Halfdan Ragnarssons and Ivar the Boneless won their war against the Northumbrian King Aela and blood-eagled him. On 1st September, 3 Viking leaders cemented their rules. I cemented my rule by bringing my Jarldom back to a stable state and defeating my rival. Halfdan and Ivar cemented their rule by conquering Northumbria and defeating their rival King Aela. After I stabilized my realm, I sent alliance offers to the remaining 2 Ragnarssons in an attempt to show loyalty to the whole Lothbrok family, and I managed to form an alliance with both Halfdan and Ivar. 2 years later, I received a letter from Jarl Ivar. The letter requested that I join him in his war against the Kingdom of East Anglia that has been going on for the past 3 years. After I agreed to the request, I sailed to England with my 2,000 men. Upon reaching England, I found out that East Anglia was already in a losing state. Their army was recently defeated by Jarl Ivar's army. Their allies and neighbours, Mercia, was also recently defeated. But I got the word that the remaining Anglian army were retreating. Jarl Ivar's near 7,000 men managed to catch them before they could leave the realm borders, and a massive slaughter took place at Cambridge. I managed to join in a little late, but the damage was done nonetheless. As soon as we started moving towards the East Anglian capital to siege, I got news from my Jarldom that I was being raided by my neighbouring earldom, and so I had to sail back to my land and teach the raiders a lesson. On 20th of March 871, I caught the retreating 500 raiders and slaughtered them all. Meanwhile, I got word from England that Ivar won the war, cementing his rule and control in East Anglia as well. And so us Norse people had settled and expanded in the western land of England. What the future holds for us in England only Odin knows. But I might not have to worry about England for now, as I have a bigger threat looming around just south of my realm. I got news that on 31st July 873, my southern neighbouring kingdom, East Francia, defeated their brother kingdom of Lotharingia and expanded their realm. Maybe it won't be long that these Christians will want my land as well. Only time will tell. But maybe I'll move to England as well, like Halfdan and Ivar did. I've heard the kingdom of Mercia is very weak and ripe for conquering. But that's concern for another day.